Yo, what is going on, guys? cebmofroz back here for another video again today. So, I've been going around and looking at a bunch of different YouTube videos, and there's some guides coming out for this game, but there's something that really needs to be made. What I've noticed is that a lot of people get out of the tutorial and they have no clue what to do after they do the tutorial. Like, the sheer amount of people who have no idea there's even a quest line in this is quite concerning. So this video is going to be a part 1 of a progression guide, actually, that is going to tell you what you do after you get out of the tutorial and what you should be doing to progress your account. So, first thing what you're going to do is when you get out of the tutorial, you're going to hit L and you're going to see that you have quest. After that, you're going to go to the main area of the Nexus and you're going to go into any of the portals. A lot of people have a question of what is different about any of the portals. There's nothing. It's literally just that everybody can't play on the same server. So if you have friends to play with and you want to play with them, then you all pick the same realm. Like for instance, I play exclusively in the realm Twilight if you want to play with me. Anyways, let's get started with this. So once you get into the realm, you'll be meted with a beach. And here you'll start doing your very first quest, which is to defeat 10 pirates. So you'll wander around and there will be enemies that will spawn and you'll kill 10 of them to complete the quest. This is very, very self-explanatory, and as you kill enemies, you'll notice that there's pink bags that will be dropping. Now, if you open these bags, you'll notice that loot comes out. And if you have your loot filter set up correctly, which is you do by having /loot, you should only see loot that is for your class. So, slowly but surely, you should be putting on a little bit of gear and getting a little bit more powerful. Anyways, the defeating 10 pirates shouldn't take too long, and at this point, you should notice that there is some dungeons dropping. They are these arc-like portals that you'll notice around. And at this point, your next quest should be telling you to go into one of these and complete the dungeon. So, all you'll do now is you'll simply shift onto the portal. You should see that it takes 2 seconds for the portal to open, and then you keep holding shift to enter. Now that we're inside, you should see this as a separate instance that you're in. And all you'll simply do is go through the dungeon, killing all the enemies, and make it to the boss. This boss is extraordinarily simple. There's nothing I really even have to say on it. It is the first boss in the game, and I'm not even sure you can die to this. So just kind of practice your dodging at this point, shoot the boss until it dies, and get your loot. Dungeons in this typically are where you get your best loot in the game. This is a low tier dungeon, so you're not going to get anything crazy, but there are possible green bag drops that you can get. There'll be none of the drops showcased in this video, but if you get one, make sure to pick it up. It's a pretty good item. Anyways, by this point, you should be out of the portal. You should be finished with that. You hold shift once again on the exit portal to get back into the realm. And you'll notice that your next quest is to kill some orcs. And you'll be noticing by now that on this beach, there's no orcs around. There's just pirates. So what do? Do you see that other orb in your inventory, the one that's blue with a little white dot in it? You will simply left click with this in your hand and you can open up the adventures obelisk. Now there is absolutely tons and tons of useful information in this thing, with a wiki, some things you can configure with your account, some leaderboards. But the thing we're most interested in here is locate a landmark. So to complete this quest, you will open up that option and then you will notice that you can click a biome. And with this, it will show you the direction of the biome in the middle of your screen. So with this biome, what you will need is the jungle biome. Then once you see where you can go, you can hit F on your keyboard to pull out your mount. You start with the cute little capybara, but you can find mount drops from any dungeon in the game that actually have different speeds, and some can even fly later on. Anyways, make your way to the jungle and start doing your quest. Pretty self-explanatory for this one. Just keep killing mobs, keep opening bags, keep getting loot, and if you like, you can enter some dungeons while you're doing it as well. Anyways, the killing 20 enemies should only take a couple minutes. Once you are done with that, you will go and find the desert or swamp biome, because for your next quest, you're going to need to do 3 dungeons in either of those. So I'm not going to be going over how to do each of these dungeons in this, but most are pretty simple with very little mechanics in them. You probably won't die in any of them. Just be careful and make sure to watch the mechanics and learn them as you're playing. This video is kind of just going to be getting you to a certain step in this, where a lot of people fall off and don't know what to do next. And that will be coming up very, very soon. Oh, also, as you're doing these dungeons, you should be seeing that sometimes you'll get a blue bag drop as well. These potions are very important. They will increase core stats to your character. You can do /stats at any point to see how many you've drunk. Depending on your class, there's a max for each different type of the stat. Anyways, once you've done those 3 dungeons, you will now Nexus. To Nexus, all you need to do is use the item in your inventory that looks kind of like the Adventurer's Obelisk, but not quite. We'll send you back to the hub of the server. It's a very important item, by the way. If you're ever going to die, you want to use that item to make sure you don't die. It's a very, very core mechanic of the game. Anyways, after Nexusing, you will simply re-enter the realm portal that you came from. And in doing so, you should notice that there is a statue. And once you hit shift on it, you will be teleported to the center of the map. Now, this is where the game truly starts. This is where you start farming for things. This is where you need to slow down on your quest progression, basically. There are 3 key biomes biomes out here. There's the Crimson area, which is the red area, the Permafrost area, which is the icy area, and Necropolis, which is the gray area. All three of these biomes have enemies that drop tier 6 gear. At this point, you'll want to spend some time just kind of killing enemies in these various 3 biomes, learning shot patterns, and learning how to dodge a little bit. Don't be too discouraged if you're getting really messed up in this biome. Once you slowly start getting the tier 6 gear from here, you will actually be able to survive a lot better. Now, you don't need full tier 6 gear, but you should be trying to get as many tier 5s, tier 6 drops as you possibly can at this point. And at this point, you'll notice that when trying to get into dungeons in these biomes, that they have a tier requirement. This is something that confuses a lot of players, like a lot of players. Basically, what tier points are is it's the combined tier of all of your items together. So let's say you had a tier 6 helmet on and nothing else, you would have 6 tier points. And if you had tier 6 for all of your weapons and abilities and armors, you will end up at about 32 tier point, which is enough to start going into any and all of these dungeons. This is where the core gameplay loop of this game starts to become apparent. Basically, what you do in this game is you complete dungeons. The entire point of the game is to go into dungeons and try to get rare loot. All dungeons have different white bags and yellow bags and lots of different kinds of loot that you can get. If you do /wiki and you look at the different keys, you can see what loot there is. So, for instance, most dungeons have 2 to 3 white bags, they'll have a mount and a pet, and they'll have a bunch of other little goodies that you can be dropped. So, depending on your class, you'll want to take a little look at this and see what items you can actually get to drop for yourself. Anyways, you should probably just be doing various dungeons, learning the different mechanics. Even if an item doesn't drop for you, it'd be good to learn the dungeon and have fun with the different boss fights. Even if a dungeon can't drop you white bags that you need, there can still be tier 7s that drop from any of the dungeons in these 3 biomes. And once you've done 5 of them, you'll notice that at this point, there's a new quest that tells you to do event bosses. Now, what I'll recommend is you probably shouldn't start doing event bosses until you got a little bit of tier 7 gear, you've drank a bunch of potions, and you've kind of gotten yourself a little bit maxed. Make sure at this point to be doing /stats regularly and try to drink all the potions until you're maxed on a stat. From any of the center dungeons, you can find either defense, attack, speed, or vit depending on the dungeon. Each dungeon only drops one kind of potion, so you need to do varied dungeons to be able to get all of them maxed. I would say as a new player, if you're very new to this kind of genre, I would just spend time doing these dungeons until you get all 4 of those maxed before moving on in the quest line. Otherwise, if you're confident, you can start doing some of the event bosses, but that's going to be most of what I'm going to cover in this. I'll have a second part to this series that kind of goes through getting the rest of the quest line done and getting to do event bosses, what ones are the easiest, what event dungeons you should try doing first, all that kind of stuff. Because that's where the mid game really starts to set in. It starts to become a lot more difficult at that point, and some of the event dungeons are very difficult and can really destroy you. Whereas a couple of them are so easy that you can kind of do them pretty much just as easily as you can do some of the center dungeons. So anyways, if you have any other questions at this point, feel free to leave them in the comments, or any things that you want me to make a detailed guide on, just tell me and I'll make videos on them. Also, I stream every single day at twitch.tv/cebmofroz, the same as my YouTube channel. I stream 10+ hours a day every single day in the realm Twilight. You can feel free to join in anytime. You can ask me questions. I can help you out with whatever you need help with. You need dungeons run, whatever. I love helping people. Anyways, it's been a good video, boys. I hope to see you guys next time, and hopefully this video helped out some people. Also, make sure to like and subscribe, and be ready for part 2 when I go through a much more in-depth guide and explain getting into the mid game. Alright, it's been Seb. See you guys, boys.